Today on the channel we are driving this 2021 Audi Q3 Premium Plus, brought to us by First International Auto Group out of Merrimack, New Hampshire. This specific example has 97,000 miles on it. Of course, we have the upgraded turbocharged inline 4 producing 228 horsepower, 258 pound-feet of torque. So this makes that the 45 TFSI. We had a starting MSRP of just over $39,000, making this quite a loaded vehicle. But before we get out on the road, let's go check out the exterior and of course these back seats. So this Audi Q3 is of course in Navarra blue exterior color. I absolutely love this color. I think it pairs really well with these 19-inch alloy rims. Of course, these come standard on the Premium Plus. Front end here, of course, we have these daytime running lights, just these tiny little inserts into the LED headlights. Quite good looking. Side profile isn't much to write home about. Of course, we have the S-Line badging there, but really it's just a pretty standard looking crossover. In the back here, of course, we have the Audi Q3 badging. We have the Quattro badging, indicating we have all-wheel drive here. And of course, with this Audi Q3, can access our trunk with a press of a button. Our seats fold down, giving you some added room back here. But really the one thing that I'm struggling with is this is just sitting quite low. If you're any taller than me, you're gonna whack your head on this every single time. I do have to duck down myself, be a little extra careful loading things in and out of here, but that's what you're gonna get with a compact crossover. Sitting behind myself, I'm 5'9". I actually have an ample amount of legroom, which I'm pretty impressed about. We have a couple charge ports down here, USB-Cs, and a 12-volt, as well as HVAC controls, which is nice. The panoramic sunroof adds some light into this interior and makes this compact crossover feel a lot more spacious than the last generation I drove a few months ago. So of course with the Premium Plus trim, you just get everything, right? We have heated seats, powered controls. We don't have memory for even our front driver here, which kinda is disappointing, but I understand with a sub $40,000 price point. We do have fog lights, LED headlights, adaptive cruise control, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. So you do get quite a lot for your dollar, especially when you're shopping pre-owned like this one is here. The Audi Q3 came with a 40 TFSI and a 45 TFSI. That just is an indication for the tuning of the same inline 4-cylinder. So generally speaking, I'm quite impressed with the interior quality in here. You do have signs of hard plastic at the top of the dashboard, but we have a nice wrapped steering wheel, which is of course like a leatherette. We have a digital gauge cluster and of course a digital infotainment screen. So we have quite a few available drive modes. If you click the drive select button, we have off-road, comfort, auto, dynamic, and individual, which allows you to customize those settings yourself. We are currently in dynamic, which definitely, you get a sense of the transmission tuning, which of course we have an 8-speed selectable automatic here. And I think it pairs really well with this inline 4-cylinder. I will say we have paddle shifters on our steering wheel, but frankly, they're quite not responsive. Like if I downshift here, it takes a second. So it'll show you that the gear changed, right? And I promise I'm watching the road. And then it takes a half second for it to actually activate. So it's kind of sad to see that, because when you include paddle shifters in a car, you're giving a driver, the chance to have a more engaging and dynamic driving experience. And I think that just gets lost when the paddles aren't very responsive. As far as my driver's position is concerned, we do have ample amounts of legroom if I wanted to put my seat further back. Where I do really struggle in this car is how my legs fit on the sides. This infotainment stack just kind of creeps into my legroom a little bit too much, where if I was on a long road trip, it would probably bother me. Putting around town, of course, you can put your seat back a little further than you would in a normal car, and we have an adjustable telescopic steering wheel, so you can move that back too. So there's a lot of adjustability in this Q3, which I do appreciate. Fuel economy is pretty good. Of course, we have a turbocharged 4-cylinder, so it's going to be quite economic in that sense, but we do have a almost 4,000 pound curb weight to lug around. Steering is incredibly light, feels electronic, that you're not really connected to the road in any sense, but it is going to give you an experience that you're not even feeling those little road imperfections, and you can still feel where your tires are aimed. But you definitely wish, as a sports car enthusiast, that you had a little bit better steering in this car that gives you a little bit better sense of engagement and tightness. Another note on this interior is I do appreciate that they didn't include too much gloss black. Really, the only place they have gloss black in here is up here, where of course if you're going to be touching your screen, but you're not necessarily going to be touching the dashboard on either side. So I think it's fine that the gloss black lays right there instead of down here where it could get a little dirty and worse for wear. My visibility is pretty good in here. We have these large mirrors that really take control of our blind spots quite well, and of course we have blind spot monitoring in this 2021 Audi Q3. I'd say the most compromised spot we have is our rear view, which is still ample amounts of visibility, and honestly in this Q3 it would lend itself to a newer driver no problem, especially with all these safety tech such as emergency braking, blind spot monitoring, lane keep assist, all that jazz. We do have auto start stop in this car, which many people in the car world have kind of hated on because it's really just a formality for manufacturers to claim an extra 1 mile per gallon on the EPA standard testing. But honestly, it's not a problem in this Q3 because it remains off if you leave the car in dynamic. You don't have to, adjust it every time you drive the car. The touchscreen infotainment center is not very prone to harsh glare. You can see it even in bright daylight, so I honestly think that Audi did a good job with their screen placement. I also like the digital dash. I'm not usually a huge fan of them, but I honestly think this one looks classy, especially when you put it in dynamic. It changes ever so slightly, and I like it quite a bit. You can change settings in the middle part of the gauge cluster so you can see, your long-term memory MPGs, which I think is a funny way of putting it. Usually it's like by trip, and you have a long trip and then your current drive, but I think making it so it says long-term memory is an interesting way of putting it. The seats in here are rotor gray, which is the color of most of the interior, but the top half is all black. It's kind of an Audi Volkswagen thing to do, is have different colors throughout the interior regardless of which one you select, whether it be beige or black. The seats I do think look good, but these ones have a little bit of fading on the bottom part of the seats. I don't know if someone had like grass stains or something, but that's really what they're giving off. I think if you clean them up very nicely, you might be able to get them to look a little more bright, but they're not plain white seats, so honestly I think most of the time people won't even notice that they are quite a little stained on the seat portion. Alright, so we're turning onto the worst road in Merrimack, New Hampshire. If you haven't watched an Auto Joe video before, we take this road at 20 miles an hour and we see how the suspension holds up. Right, 20 miles an hour. So it's a little more stiffly sprung than I'd imagine. I actually don't think it's the springs being stiff that's the problem. I think it's actually the short wheelbase that's causing the car to kind of rock back and forth over those large bumps. so I take that first part of my comment back. The Q3 still handles it with ease. I think if you're commuting to Boston, this car is not going to punish you on a daily basis. It's mostly going to give you a comfortable and quiet ride. While we're pulled over in here, let's check out this backup camera. So pretty high resolution. You do have parking sensors on this side. There's no extra camera that comes out in the front or the back, but it is good to at least have the rear view camera and the parking sensors. Sound deadening wise, it's pretty quiet in here. I will say that you hear a little bit of road noise from these tires, but if you change to a more quiet set, you might get a better result. But honestly, with a little bit of light music playing, you won't even notice basically any noise in this interior. It's very refined. But yeah, there are just no creaks and rattles in here for 97,000 miles. I'm very impressed with the overall quality of the interior, especially this being the low end of the Audi Q3 and, you know, overall crossover lineup. My overall thoughts of the looks regarding this Q3 is that it's probably the best looking generation Q3 they've had so far. I think the design language is really quite there. Compact crossovers inherently don't look good because of their short wheelbases and, you know, tall arches that they have, you know, to kind of make up for the fact that they are trying to be practical and give you a lot of interior space while also keeping a small footprint, making it an appealing car for cities. So with that job that they had to do, designing a car that can be compact but also give you lots of space, I think they did a good job. I think overall this Q3 is a classic outer, you know, exterior design where you don't really know that it's a 2021. You think it's a brand new car. Of course, they're still in the same generation, so I can't necessarily say that the car is timelessly designed. But the interior feels like a brand new car too. You know, I think they made the right choice with materials, especially on the lower parts of the infotainment stack where you have your shifter and whatnot. Putting gloss black here or a more scratchable material definitely would have been a mistake, so Audi avoided that there. But regarding the buttons in this car too, for a 2021, it's nice to see that a manufacturer still honors the fact that people want HVAC controls, heated seats, power and adjustability to their stereo as physical buttons instead of inside your infotainment stack. So I think Audi made a lot of right choices with this Q3. I think it's set up to be a very practical and not necessarily driver focused, but it's inherently, kind of forgetting the word, but I'll put it here, right? Needless to say that this 2021 Audi Q3, in my opinion, is a good buy. These turbocharged 4-cylinders stand to the test of time. It's a very reliable engine setup, and even when I was talking to Ivan at First International Auto Group, he said that their mechanics love working on these because they're super easy, they're reliable, they put a lot of trust into these cars that they're gonna last even, you know, above 100K miles. With that being said, I really did enjoy my time in this Audi Q3. I'm not personally in the market for a compact crossover, but I think if you are, this is a strong consideration over the likes of the BMW X1 or the Volvo XC40. I think we have a strong contender here. I did drive the 2020 Volvo XC40, and honestly, between the two cars, my preference is this Q3. I think it's just set up better ergonomics, and I honestly think they look better. With that being said, thank you all for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, as your support helps me grow my channel, helps me gain access to cars to show for you. Anyways, thank you all again. Bye-bye.